Lena had always felt a deep connection to the land. Growing up on the outskirts of the desert town, she spent most of her days roaming the canyons and plains near her home. She knew every curve of the river, every hidden path through the rocks, and every whisper of the wind. Her parents had taught her the old ways, how to respect the earth, how to move silently through the desert, and how to listen to nature. It was this knowledge, passed down through generations of her Apache ancestors, that had made her strong, independent, and fearless. On one bright morning, Lena decided to walk along the canyon trail, enjoying the warm sun on her face and the scent of desert flowers. The birds sang, and the dry grasses swayed with the gentle breeze. She felt at peace, though she was always alert, knowing the desert could change in a heartbeat. As she walked, she heard something unusual. A small, frightened cry, sharp and urgent, cutting through the quiet morning. Her heart tightened. It was a child. Without thinking twice, Lena ran toward the sound. Her eyes scanned the canyon walls until she saw a small figure clinging to a ledge. It was a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And he was crying, terrified, with no one else in sight. Lena's pulse raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. She knew panicking would make it harder to help him. The boy was trapped on a narrow ledge above a steep drop. Every second mattered. "Don't be afraid," she called gently, keeping her voice steady. "I'm here to help you." The boy's eyes widened as he recognized someone had come. He shook his head, fear making him frozen in place. Lena took a deep breath and assessed the situation. She had to climb down carefully. "Thanks for watching. For more, I think." One wrong step could send them both tumbling. She tied her long braid back and began descending the rocks, moving slowly but with certainty. Her feet found small cracks and ledges, and her hands gripped sturdy rocks. When she reached him, she held out her hand. "Take my hand. It's okay," she said softly. The boy hesitated, but hunger for safety outweighed his fear. He grasped her hand, and she lifted him gently, holding him close as she carefully climbed back up. Every muscle in her body tensed as she navigated the narrow path, but she refused to let go. Finally, after what felt like hours, though it had only been minutes, they reached solid ground. Lena set the boy down and crouched in front of him, brushing the dust from his clothes. "It's okay now," she whispered. "You're safe." Tears streamed down the boy's face, but relief replaced his fear. I can't find my mom," he stammered. Lena smiled reassuringly. "We'll find her. Don't worry. You're not alone." She guided him toward the trail, scanning the area for signs of other people. Soon, they heard voices calling out his name. His parents appeared, running toward them, panic etched on their faces. The reunion was emotional. The mother clutched her son tightly, sobbing tears of relief. The father shook Lena's hand repeatedly, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you," he said, voice trembling. Lena waved off their praise modestly. "It's all right. I'm just glad he's safe." Despite the joy of the rescue, Lena felt a dull ache in her side. She had scraped herself on a jagged rock during the climb, and her arm throbbed. She smiled through it, though, refusing to let pain overshadow the moment. Helping others had always been worth any risk, she thought. As she walked home, word of her bravery spread quickly through the town. People stopped her on the street, calling her a hero, praising her courage. Some were kind and respectful, but Lena noticed a few suspicious glances, whispers about her being an outsider, someone who didn't fully belong. She ignored them, focused on the knowledge that she had saved a life. When she reached her small home, she tended to her injuries carefully. A shallow cut on her arm needed cleaning, and she wrapped it with cloth, humming a quiet tune her grandmother had taught her. Lena looked around her home, simple and neat, with mementos of her heritage everywhere. Handmade pottery, feathered decorations, and pictures of her family. She felt a mix of pride and solitude. Her life was simple, but it was hers, shaped by her values, her culture, and her love for the land. Later that afternoon, she decided to take a walk near the edge of the town, down by the ranch lands. She often walked this path to clear her mind, and on this day, she noticed a figure in the distance. A man was leaning against a fence, watching the desert stretch out before him. He was tall, strong, and carried the quiet air of someone who had spent many years alone. Lena had seen him before in town. Ethan, the solitary rancher. Rumors surrounded him, stories of a past heartbreak that kept him distant from everyone. He never mingled with the townspeople, preferring the company of his animals and the open land. Ethan noticed Lena approaching and straightened up. He had seen parts of her rescue earlier from a distance. There had been something in her courage, something that made him pause and admire her from afar. Now, standing closer, he realized that admiration had grown into a quiet curiosity. "Miss," he called gently, careful not to startle her. "I saw what you did today. That boy, you saved him. I just wanted to say, thank you." Lena tilted her head slightly, studying him for a moment. "Thank you for saying that," she replied softly. "I didn't do it for thanks. I just couldn't leave him there." Ethan nodded, respect evident in his eyes. "Not many would have had the courage. You're something else." A small smile tugged at Lena's lips. "I suppose courage comes in moments like these, when you have no choice but to act." They stood together for a few moments, watching the sun cast golden light over the rolling hills. A sense of calm settled between them, quiet but meaningful. Neither spoke, yet both felt a connection, a recognition of shared respect for strength and life. As Lena turned to leave, Ethan spoke again. "If you ever need a place to rest or help with the land, you're welcome at my ranch. It's quiet there. Might be nice for you after a day like today." She paused, surprised by the offer. No one had ever invited her into their private world so openly. Thank you," she said finally, meaning it. "Perhaps one day, I will." Walking home, Lena's thoughts wandered. The boy she had saved had reminded her of the fragility of life, how quickly things could change. And now, meeting Ethan, she realized there were connections waiting in the most unexpected places. She didn't know what the future held, but she felt a quiet hope, a spark of something new, something beyond the horizon of her familiar life. That night, as Lena lay under the stars outside her home, she thought about the canyon, the boy, and the rancher. The desert was vast and unpredictable, but it was also full of moments that tested courage and shaped destiny. She felt ready to face whatever came next, knowing that bravery, kindness, and the willingness to help others could lead to more than she had ever imagined. And somewhere on the edge of the town, Ethan watched the sun set over the desert, thinking of the brave girl who had risked everything to save a child. He didn't know it yet, but their paths were about to cross again, in ways that would challenge them, teach them, and maybe, just maybe, bring their hearts together. Days passed since Lena had saved the boy, but she couldn't stop thinking about the rancher, Ethan. There was something about him quiet, strong, and thoughtful that lingered in her mind. She wondered what his life was like on the ranch, so far from the town and its chatter. Something inside her urged her to know more, to see the world beyond her familiar paths and the canyons she had roamed since childhood. One morning, Lena gathered a small bag with water, some food, and a few tools she often carried. She decided to visit Ethan's ranch, curious and cautious. As she walked across the dry grasslands, the morning sun warmed her back, and the wind carried the faint scent of wildflowers. She approached the ranch quietly, careful not to startle anyone. Ethan was outside, repairing a fence that had been damaged in a recent storm. He straightened as he noticed her approaching, a small smile appearing on his rugged face. "I wondered if you might come," he said, wiping his hands on a cloth. Come on in. There's work to do. But it's not too hard. Might be good for you to see what life is like out here. Lena hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I would like that, she said softly. Inside the ranch, the day passed quickly. Lena helped Ethan mend fences, feed the animals, and carry supplies. She was careful and precise, using the skills she had learned from her tribe and years of roaming the land. Ethan watched her closely, impressed by her knowledge and her steady hands. He had spent years alone, solving problems by himself. But having Lena there made even the toughest tasks feel lighter. By midday, they paused for a small meal under the shade of an old oak tree. The sun was high, and the heat made them sweat, but they laughed easily, sharing stories about their lives. Lena spoke of the canyons, the river, and the desert she had grown up in. Ethan spoke of his ranch, the animals he cared for, and the solitude he had chosen after heartbreak in the past. You've faced a lot already, haven't you? Ethan said quietly, watching Lena as she drank water. Lena shrugged slightly, a thoughtful smile on her face. Ethan nodded. There was honesty in her words that he admired. It reminded him of something he had almost forgotten, the value of courage and compassion. As the day went on, Lena learned more about the ranch. She discovered hidden trails through the hills, water sources, and safe spots for the animals. She guided Ethan to a hidden grove where wild herbs grew, teaching him about their uses. Together, they worked efficiently, combining their knowledge of nature, survival, and the land. In the evening, as the sun began to set, they sat on the porch of the ranch house, sipping tea and watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. There was a quiet comfort in their companionship, a sense that neither had expected to find. Lena felt her heart lighten, realizing that she was beginning to care for this man who had once seemed so distant. Ethan, too, felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. He was drawn to her bravery, her kindness, and the way she seemed to understand the land and him without words. The next few weeks passed in a gentle rhythm. Lena visited the ranch often, helping with chores, tending animals, and learning more about ranch life. In turn, Ethan taught her how to ride horses properly, care for the livestock, and manage the land in ways she hadn't known before. They faced challenges together, from sudden storms that threatened the fences to lost animals that needed to be found. Each challenge brought them closer, their respect and trust growing steadily. One afternoon, a wildfire broke out near the edge of the ranch. Smoke rose quickly, carried by the wind, and the animals became frightened. Lena and Ethan immediately sprang into action. Lena helped guide the animals to a safe area, using her knowledge of the terrain to find paths away from the flames. Ethan worked to contain the fire, creating barriers and clearing brush. Together, they coordinated their efforts, their movements precise and calm despite the danger. As the fire raged, Lena noticed a young foal trapped near a burning bush. Without hesitation, she ran forward, pulling the frightened animal to safety. Ethan followed close behind, carrying water to douse small flames and keep the path clear. By the time the fire subsided, they were exhausted, their clothes covered in soot, but every animal had been saved. Breathing heavily, they looked at each other and smiled. The shared adrenaline, creating a bond that was deeper than words could express. You're fearless, Ethan said quietly, his eyes locking with hers. Lena shook her head with a small laugh, wiping soot from her face. I'm not fearless, I just do what I must. Still, Ethan said, you inspire me. I don't know what I would have done without you today. The night that followed was calm. They sat together on the porch again, wrapped in blankets, listening to the distant crackle of the fire now dying out. Lena felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt before. She realized that the ranch, the land, and this quiet man had become more than just part of her day, they had become part of her heart. Ethan, for his part, had never imagined opening himself to someone like Lena. Her courage, her kindness, and her quiet strength had broken down walls he had built years ago. He realized he wanted her by his side, not just for a day, but for life. In the following days, their friendship deepened into something neither could ignore. Small gestures, a touch of the hand, a shared laugh, a look that lingered, spoke louder than words. Lena felt her heart warm whenever Ethan was near, and she noticed that he seemed happier, lighter, and more alive than he had in years. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lena and Ethan walked along the ranch's edge, the sky painted in deep oranges and purples. Ethan stopped and looked at her, his expression serious, but tender. "Lena, I've lived a quiet life, alone and careful. But you've changed something in me. I don't want to go back to being alone. I want you here, with me." Lena's heart raced. She had felt the same way, but had been unsure if he felt it too. "Ethan, you don't know how long I've hoped to hear you say that," she replied softly. From that moment, their bond was undeniable. They shared quiet days on the ranch, tending to animals, working the land, and watching sunsets. They also shared laughter, stories, and the joy of simple moments. Moments that reminded them that life was meant to be lived, loved, and cherished. As weeks turned into months, Lena and Ethan realized that the risks they had taken, the courage they had shown, and the moments they had shared had led them to this point. Two lives, once solitary and uncertain, had found connection, trust, and love in the most unexpected place, a quiet ranch on the edge of the desert. Lena often thought back to the day she had saved the boy in the canyon. That moment of courage had set everything in motion. It had led her to Ethan, to the ranch, and to a life filled with companionship and warmth. She smiled whenever she thought of it, knowing that bravery and kindness could change more than just one life. They could change destinies. Ethan, too, often reflected on the day he first noticed her. He had admired her courage from a distance, but it was only when he truly knew her that he understood the depth of her heart. Together, they had faced challenges, shared joys, and discovered a love that was quiet but unshakable, strong enough to endure whatever life might bring. As the stars blanketed the desert sky, Lena and Ethan sat side by side on the porch, holding hands. The ranch was quiet, the animals settled, and the night air was cool and calm. Lena rested her head against Ethan's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. In that moment, they didn't need words. The desert, the land, and the life they had built together spoke for them. They had found love, trust, and a partnership that neither had expected but both cherished deeply. The story of Lena, the brave Apache girl, and Ethan, the solitary rancher, was no longer just a tale of courage. It was a story of hearts finding each other in the most unexpected way. And as the night carried on, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, side by side, their bond stronger than the challenges of the world around them.